that it's always the punchline. It's always the joke. It's always the weird person.
Literally was saying like, let's let peanut allergy people die. And everyone's laughing.
Everyone thinks it's funny. I do not want to see my worst fear, like the thing that I have serious trauma about, when I'm just trying to relax and watch a show.
Hi. Hello. And welcome to EpiPod.
Sarah is a mom to 2 little boys with food allergies.
And Danielle has navigated life-threatening allergies her entire life.
Living with an invisible health condition is so isolating.
The fear and the anxiety.
Trying to cover it up so you don't affect anybody else.
Especially your kids. Sound familiar?
Join us on the couch and take a load off with people who just get it.
We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to EpiPod.
Presented by Lorissa's Kitchen.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Danielle. What's going on?
I just don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I am not myself, and I haven't been myself since basically the start of the Olympics. The Olympics are single-handedly saving my life right now. They're my only source of joy and social interaction.
And it's because you're in the middle of this move?
Yeah, moving is always hard for me. I'm a terrible mover. I hate moving.
Yeah.
However, I've been vague about it on social media, but you guys are the real ones. I got a call 20 hours before my move. Movers are supposed to show up at 8 a.m. the next day. At lunch the day before, they're like, we think that the foundation is shifting and the house might not be safe. And I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
What?
Excuse me.
I'm going to be homeless in 20 hours?
Right, because you've got to get out of your apartment.
Yeah, luckily the apartment, it's already leased to somebody else.
Yeah.
Everything is in boxes. I have 1 pair of yoga pants and 2 eggs to scramble for myself the next morning. That's it. Right. Everything else is in boxes.
You were planning to leave, wake up and go.
Yes. And I also said no to every single social thing. We didn't even podcast that week. I said I didn't updose that week. I cleared the decks. So, and I could have stayed in my hometown longer and spent more time with my parents, because I was like, okay, you're going to need all 9 of those days if you're going to single-handedly try and pack up your apartment. Now I'm just sitting in mountains of boxes, digging for everything from another hanky-panky undie to the salt. I can't. The dog is fussy. I'm fussy. Everybody's fussy.
So the Olympics is the only thing that is cheering you up, but also making you cry.
It's giving me great joy, but also maybe it's because I'm hyper emotional. I mean, you know, I'm a crier. I cannot watch the Olympics.
Yeah.
I can't watch I do. I can't watch the Olympics without crying every single time somebody wins. It doesn't matter what country. It doesn't matter if they even get a medal. If they're excited, I start crying. Yeah. They show the parents and I'm I can no longer see. The dog is picking up on the eye energy. He's going from angry, happy, sad, crying, angry, happy. He's oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. I definitely have shed a few tears and gotten emotional, especially with the parent aspect, like you said. Also, just bringing allergies into everything, because it definitely always is into everything. But there are 2 Olympians that have been outspoken about allergies.
Yeah.
And they're competing and doing amazing. And I just think that's so inspiring. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a gymnast who I think is American, but is not performing. What's the right word?
She's on
competing.
The team for the Philippines.
Yeah. Yes. I forget her name right now. I want to have her on this podcast.
I know. I want to DM her and be would you talk about this?
Please come. Because she had a reaction before her competition, which is wild to me.
Full on AviQ'd herself.
Yes. And was in an ambulance, I'm pretty sure.
I am obviously so glad she's okay, but I'm so confused. And these are the types of things that we're talking about, allergies in the media.
Yep.
And I am somebody who's very easily triggered. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even want to read about it, because it sounded like she didn't eat something and then have a reaction. She ate something hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and then was walking around.
So it was either a delayed reaction to food and it was somehow in her food that she didn't know, or it was some sort of environmental thing, or maybe
it
just
could have been 1,000 things.
I mean, as we know, there are so many cofactors to anaphylaxis. So even as much as stress and raising your heart rate and being on your period. I mean, there's all sorts of things.
Alcohol.
Yeah. So we obviously know nothing, and she doesn't even understand or know, but it's just one of those things that, it makes it terrifying.
No, that it was really freaky, where I'm wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I know that delayed reactions are a thing and every body is different and but like typically, especially for dosing in OIT, like if you make it to the 2-hour mark, like go on with your day.
Right.
Like go have a glass of wine, go on a run, like go be a human. And so it's hard to then read like she didn't even eat anything for hours and hours before. I don't know. I'm so glad she's okay.
Yes.
I think it's absolutely brilliant of her to somehow, superhuman, have gone from being EpiPenned in anaphylactic shock, in an emergency situation, medical team, ambulance, the whole 9, to then competing in the stadium. Like, what?
And I think it was within a day
like
or
days
so.
later. Yeah. Like, that is crazy.
It is. And I think it goes to show a lot of things, but number one, how freaking strong people with food allergies are. Even if you feel a little fragile sometimes, or you feel like there's this thing in your body that is wrong with you, it's like, actually, no. Like, she's a badass. She was able to recognize that something was going wrong, pull out her epinephrine auto-injector, give it to herself, find emergency care, get better, mentally get better, and then compete in the Olympics.
I know.
Oh, I'm not sure there's much stronger than that.
You know what I kept thinking is, like, before this story came out at all, is like watching the rugby players, and their social media is just so funny.
Oh, that main one, I forget.
Ilona?
Ilona. I love her.
I'm obsessed with her.
I love the personalities coming out at the Olympics.
But they do a lot of their content in the dining hall, and I kept thinking, like, I wonder how, if you had allergies, how you were supposed to do that. So then watching this gymnast showing the, like, famous chocolate muffin. Yeah. And she was, like, eating the chocolate muffin. I was like, whoa, like, how? Or she was showing herself, like, going to different bakeries around Paris. And somebody recommended, they're like, this is going to sound weird, but get the pistachio escargot something. Like, it sells out. You have to get it at, like, 8 a.m. And she was like, oh, I'd love to try, but I'm actually allergic to tree nuts. So I'm like, whoa. Like, it's just so inspiring to see. It's easy to see somebody, you know, at the Olympics competing and be like, oh, actually, you might not know this, but she has food allergies. But then to also see, like, the worst case scenario happen, and her to still be so resilient. Gold medal. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure she got one, but she got one from us.
Yeah. In my eyes, like, she really, like, that is champion DNA.
Yes.
Like, that's crazy.
And please come on our show, because we'd love to talk to you.
I have a lot of questions.
We also just want to, like, get some of, like, the superhero power that she has.
To rub
like,
off on us.
if I could get some of that, an ounce of that, that'd be
superhero by
cool.
association.
Yeah. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how I feel about you.
Okay. Oh, well,
it's
thank
true.
you. You're so kind.
I called you yesterday and I was in a full spiral and I was like, hello, I'm not having an allergic reaction, but do you have a moment to talk?
And I'm like, you might hear some TV and loud screams in the background, but yes.
Yeah. And then the fastest man in the world.
Oh my gosh, Noah Lyles.
He has a laundry list of health things, but namely asthma, to the point where he
was hospitalized as a child.
Yeah, he couldn't do normal child like activities. Not just like, oh, I have an inhaler, oh, I have some asthma here and there. He was in the hospital for his asthma as a child. Can you imagine?
No. I mean, when I saw the embrace at the end with his mom in the stands, and she's just like repeating over and over, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so sorry. But like, it was just so beautiful, because for me, I didn't just picture like, I'm so proud of you for running and winning. I pictured, I'm so proud of you for overcoming such a huge health condition, and not only overcoming it and doing something big, but doing like the biggest thing you could do, and the most contrasting thing you could do to asthma.
That's what I was going to say, is like, your lungs are the piece of your body that is going against you. Also, I think in that laundry list was like ADHD, anxiety, depression. Like, he has the mental health side of it too. Yeah. Where I'm like, you can take the perfect storm and then give me the perfect, like, the thing that it would be hardest for somebody with that perfect storm to do. And he did it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I love the Olympics.
I know.
What am I going to do when it's over? Like, I have already rewatched some of the gymnastics. On some nights where I'm like, I don't really want to watch handball.
I love it.
I'll put back on like the gymnastics qualifier.
It's so good. It's so good. It like is everything that's good about like the world and like coming together. And you know, people could of course find things to like pick apart or be mad about, and I'm like, are you just miserable? Are you a miserable human that you just want to be mad about something? I'm like, let's just watch these brilliant athletes compete and be happy and proud of them
and seeing the sportsmanship. Like anyways, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, Graham had a little snafu, I don't know, with dosing last night. I mean, it's again one of these like small things, like almost like a response, not a reaction. Like he coughed a little bit. I feel like it's my bad though. Like I let him go outside and it was 1,000,000 degrees and he really wanted to show, this person came to pick something up from our house and he wanted to like show off his bike. And so it wasn't quite the hour mark for dosing. And I was like, we're going to be out here 5 seconds. Like he really wants to. And part of me as an allergy mom is I never want to limit him because of his allergies. Now they do limit you. That's just going to happen. And there are some things that obviously are like, I'm not going to be like, you really want that peanut? Okay, go ahead. Like I'm not putting him in danger, but I think I crossed a little bit too much into the danger zone with this decision. Like I just wanted him to be able to be a kid and show this friend that he could ride his bike a certain way. And that like desire to want to let him have that moment and to be a kid and have allergies not hold him back, I think is what caused him to kind of have a response to his dose. So he was fine. Nothing actually happened. He just like had some like throat clearing and a little cough. And then when I made him open his mouth, he had like a little like red dot, it seemed like, on the back of his throat. He has huge tonsils, so sometimes it's hard to tell. But then today he woke up with a scratchy throat and like kind of sounding congested. So I'm like, is he just sick? Like he also he's been in school for 2 weeks. Like
it's coming.
It's coming, you know? So I don't know. Maybe I had nothing to do with it. Maybe it was all too much at one time. He is kind of getting sick. He had his dose. He exercised. Like,
how far into it were you guys?
Probably like 45 minutes.
Oh, so you were like almost over.
Yeah, but that's probably too close. I mean, they give you an hour because it needs to be an hour, right? You know, they tell you an hour. So, and again, it was like, I was just thinking we'll be out here for 5 minutes. It's not a big deal.
It literally is also like, for anybody who doesn't live in Austin, it is, the thing says 100 degrees. My car says 105.
Yeah.
And then with humidity,
it's like
the heat index,
110. Yeah.
It's 100 and a gazillion.
Yeah.
It's so not okay.
It amps everything up. But yeah, he's fine. He's at school, and I feel a little guilty. I think I would have felt obviously way more guilt if something bad would have happened. But I did share it on my social media mainly because it's like, we are human. Like allergy moms in a lot of ways are superhuman, but we are human and we have our own emotions and things going on and busy lives. And like, whether it's this or something else, like you mischecked a label or, you know, whatever, or you forgot to tell someone something, or whatever it may be, like we've all made mistakes. And I think I try really hard on my social media page to, and this can actually get us into the topic today about like allergies in the media. I mean, social media is a form of media. And I just think it's so important. Not that I have this like major voice in the allergy community, but I do have one.
You definitely have a major voice in the allergy community.
Well, and so I just think it's really important. Like it's crucial that I am not sugarcoating, that I am not lying. You know, of course I don't have to share every itty bitty detail of my life, but I think it's important to see that like, yes, I like food allergies on the go, mom made a mistake. Like when I made a mistake last month and I'm still beating myself up over it, like maybe I can let that go. Like I'm not the only one who makes mistakes. My kid's fine, her kid's fine. We all mess up sometimes, you know? And so like I try, and I think that is the responsible thing for anybody with a voice, whether it's big media, small media, whatever it is, to accurately depict what allergy life is, what an allergy reaction is. And as we are going to talk about, that is not what happens. Like,
We are proud to be supported by Lorissa's Kitchen, also known as LK Meat Snacks. They are the first and only meat snack option that is certified free from the top 9 allergens, uses 100% grass-fed beef and free-range poultry, and contains 0 sugar.
Yum! From their chili crisp inspired chicken sticks to their jalapeno heat seeker beef stick, they never sacrifice on big, bold flavor. Check them out on their website at lorissaskitchen.com. That's LORISSAS kitchen.com. And if you use the code EpiPod, you get 15% off.
Also, they are available in Sprouts now.
Woohoo! Let's go.
I love it.
In so many movies and shows, it is just like this Walt Disney, but not like a horror movie blend of showing what reactions are, or whether it's, like the picture of the reaction like that they give you, or it's the attitude towards the person or the allergy.
Yeah.
And both things are really, really bad. I mean, both things are really, really detrimental to not only like the people with allergies, but also the like community support and understanding of allergies. What have you seen? Like, is there anything that's glaring? I know we've actually talked about a few on the show, but like, what sticks out to you as something you've like seen or that bothers you a lot?
It's always like you hit the nail on the head with the attitude. It's like that. It's always the punchline. It's always the joke. It's always the weird person. It's always the underdog who you like, not the underdog that you're rooting for, but you like kind of want to kick.
The annoying one.
Example, like the one that we talked about just a few weeks ago was in Suits, like the annoying intern where you're just like, oh my God, like I just want to stick your head in the toilet.
Right.
Like yeah. And so then when something in the plot makes them puff up and hurt, you're like, oh, haha. Now you're like, it's like training people to then think, isn't it so funny?
Yes.
Something that I often get conversationally is, what is the movie with Will Smith?
Oh, shoot. What is it? I know what you're talking about. I can see his face.
Yes.
It's like bulging out of his eye and his cheek and his whatever.
It's like his face is like almost like it's huge and it's melting.
Yes.
I don't love seeing allergies at all in the media.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media or in movies, even if it's like accurately depicted, I do not want to see my worst fear, like the thing that I have serious trauma about, when I'm just trying to relax and watch a show or just waiting in line for my cup of coffee. Like, I don't want to see it. And I used to, when people would be like, oh, trigger warning about whatever, I'd be like, oh, come on, weak sauce. Like, this isn't that triggering. And now I'm like, if you could just tell me, even if it's somebody who's like so well intended, I personally know that I cannot see that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's for me when it's the punchline, and it's also just the element of surprise, whether it was handled well or not, just feeling like it's being shown to me against my will and not getting to choose, like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm in a good place to see this. Yeah. It's so hard.
It's so hard. And what's triggering, it just goes to show like what's triggering for one person is not for the next. So it's like, you know, everything affects everybody differently.
It's going to drive me nuts if I don't know what the Will Smith movie is.
Yeah, look it up. Okay.
But that one, like, people will conversationally often be like, oh, haha, it's like in, and I'm like, no, it's actually not haha.
Yeah. Well, speaking of haha, one of the things that bothers me the most is in comedians, like, so stand-up comedy, and especially with the age of social media, right? It's not like the comedian that you're just going to see at the, you know, comedy club, or even the one that has, you know, the Netflix special. It's like all of these clips circulate on social media. And for some reason, I feel like I've seen it even in like, and I love him, Jimmy Fallon. Like, he has done 2 different things about like nut allergies, and what was the other one? It may have been milk or something, where he's making allergies the butt of the joke. There was one, and again, I actually like this comedian. It was either Jim Gaffigan or I can't remember his name, but he essentially said, like, we do, like, he made it so serious. Like, we do need to have protections for, you know, kids and people with allergies, and make sure people around them know. Like, he went on this whole, like, you know, 3 or 4 sentences about, like, these people really need protections. And then he was like, however, and, you know, the whole audience laughs. So all of a sudden it's like, you know what's coming. And he's like, however, if touching a peanut can kill you, maybe we should just let it happen. Like literally was saying, like, let's let peanut allergy people die. And everyone's laughing.
Everyone thinks it's funny.
And I blame the cycle of media for that, right? Because you meet someone, so your loved one is diagnosed with a food allergy, and it's no longer funny, right? Because you understand that, wow, that reaction was really scary, or like, I have a responsibility over my grandkid that now has an allergy, and like all of a sudden you understand. And so not everybody knows someone with a food allergy, and that's okay. But we all have a TV. We all go to the movies. We all have social media. And so if we don't know anyone close to us, that's okay. But then if the only exposure we have is these celebrities, comedians, movie producers making it a joke, well, now that the only exposure I have is that it's funny. And so everyone's attitude is that it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. And I hate that so much.
I hate it too. It's Hitch.
Hitch. Okay.
And it's from seafood. He goes into anaphylaxis from seafood.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because usually it's the nuts that doesn't. I always say that I have nut allergy privilege, where it's like, unfortunately, but fortunately, like, because nut allergies are usually the ones that are picked on, or like nut allergies are the ones that schools will understand, or like a date will understand, because it has been in the media, joke or not. But like, that's interesting that it's always about seafood. Oh, right. That's a little less common.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
People don't take as much care with a dairy allergy. They're like, oh yeah, it makes my stomach upset too. Right. And you're like, no, I don't. I can't take a little, what are those pills called? Lactate?
Lactate.
Can't take a little Lactate and have an ice cream, you know?
No.
So I think like the bright side of the dark side for me is, even though it's the butt of the joke, it has somehow given nut allergies more,
I can see that,
recognition, or like general population.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think, you know, I have seen things get a little bit better. Like, even in the time that I've been like a mom and watched kids TV, like there's, you know, Daniel Tiger is like a PBS show that was really popular for a while. And like, he has a peach allergy, and there's a little book, but it also is an entire like episode about him having an allergy. And so like, you know, a positive, simple portrayal. There's also a few other like kids cartoons and things that like, it's not even the premise of the episode. It is just that somebody has an allergy, or they have to like check a label, or they're making sun butter sandwiches. So, which again, for me, it's like, well, Ethan has a sunflower allergy, but like, I can see that people are trying to somehow like include us, not necessarily like advocate or, you know, teach, but at least there is some more inclusion of like, even when you talk about a disability, like someone who's in a wheelchair, that's what I was gonna say. You know, you see it more in a commercial, and you know, obviously that's a visual disability, whereas food allergies are not. So I think it's a little harder to like include, because it would have to be in a storyline or something else. But I am seeing it.
One of my favorite shows is Outer Banks.
Outer Banks?
Have you ever watched it?
I have not.
It's what gave me my obsession with Charleston. It's why I'm like, when I graduate food allergy treatment, or if I decide it's no longer for me, like the first thing I'm doing is packing up, which I know how much I love, and moving to South Carolina. Yeah. Like, I want to be in the Carolinas. And it's because of this show. And I started watching it in the pandemic, and it's sort of like, has like a pirate element. Okay. They go down to the Caribbean. There's like cartel. It's basically like these very hot high schoolers. They're really in real life, like almost 30.
Okay.
these like this gang of high schoolers that are like, some are from the wrong side of the tracks and some are from like the bougie side of the tracks.
Okay.
And there's like a hidden treasure and lore, and it's like a wild goose chase. Lots of, they're always like, somebody's almost always dying. Like the cartel kidnaps one of the girls, or like one of them like gets stuck in a tide, or like they're always, every episode, like you just think somebody's gonna die. And one of them in the second season is, they are like almost to the finding the treasure, and one of the boys sticks his hand in a hornet's nest and they attack him. And they're like scrambling around for this treasure, and when all of a sudden he's like, I don't feel very good, he's going to anaphylaxis. Yeah. And like they show it, I mean, they're not disrespectful in the way that they showed it. Like he can't breathe. Yeah. His face is swelling. His lips are huge. They're freaking out. The kids don't know what to do. Yeah. And one of them is like, oh, my uncle is a ER, or he's a paramedic. Like he drives the little town's ambulance. So they go to his house, and the guy's like in his pajamas, like watching TV, and he's like, whoa, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, we need, like, what do we do? Like, he can't breathe. What do we do? And he pulls out an EpiPen, and he gives him like couples EpiPens, and then they're like, we gotta go. And he's like, he really should rest. Like, he shouldn't go. And they're like, no, we gotta go. And one of the girls is like, what do we do? Like, if it happens again, like, is there any like care instructions? Like, they handled it normally.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, he definitely shouldn't have been running around. He should have gone and been observed for 6 to 8 hours in a hospital. Yes. But whatever.
But I mean, we can't get too picky.
Yeah. I mean, for me, even though that wasn't an allergy, it was a hornet.
You mean a food allergy?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. He had an allergy to the venom for sure. But like because it wasn't seeing, he ate peanuts. Right. It was like just unpersonal enough to be like, you did good. Like you showed that it was serious. You showed that they used an EpiPen. Yep. Thank God that the EpiPen worked. And like, that was that.
I think another thing for me is, and it made me think of it when you said EpiPen, like gave him the EpiPen. I've seen a few different like allergic reactions in shows or movies where they like stab, like do the big stab, which is like teaching people the wrong way. I always tell people when I'm explaining how the AviQ works, and I always say, and it's not in the movies where you stab somebody, like you jam it into their thigh. Like I say that every single time. It's not like it's in the movies, because that's not how you use it. Like, I mean, some do, I think, like the actual
EpiPen branded one. Yeah, you do have to like go at an angle and go in.
Yes. But for us, like our AviQ, which is for a lot of young kids, that's what you use.
That's what I use now.
Yeah. But like, I think for a while, someone probably needs to check me on this, but like, I think for a while they didn't make certain brands in like tiny doses, like for babies, and so AviQ kind of like stepped in and filled that gap. And that one in particular, you like place it on your thigh and push in. So I just feel like, I've seen it depicted wrong for us. Like you said, like individually it's not correct for us. And then also like there's so many intricacies. Again, like we can't expect the movie to be like, okay, blue to the sky, orange to the thigh, like totally. This is a movie, right? We're not like changing the script. We can't it's not all about allergies, and we don't really want it to be.
No, I don't want to see anything about allergies. Although I do find myself when like people are eating a big meal. Yeah. I'm like, I wonder what like if I were there as this character in a fictional world, would I be able to eat that?
Yeah. See, and I kind of like, you don't ever want to see it, and I totally respect and understand that, but like I think we do need to see it sometimes. Not necessarily the reaction. I just think we need to see allergies accurately depicted, meaning like as a part of a family unit, say, like if it's a family show and it's like, oh, the sister has food allergies, and they're like checking, like it doesn't even have to be this big plot line. It can just be like her be like, wait, is that safe for me? Oh, let me check. Yeah, you're good here, sis. Like, I don't know, like some little just like 2-second intertwined into the character that has the food allergy. And if there is anything that like, okay, they dropped that in because 3 episodes later they are going to have some sort of reaction, I just want it to be accurate. Like, I just don't want it to look like the Hitch guy, Will Smith in that show, or the bad Super Bowl commercial that we as a community got taken down. You know, that
still pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, that not only showed it incorrectly, but what was so bad about that one, I thought, was like, it was like the person was stupid, like, oh, peanuts and peanut butter? I didn't understand. And I know the whole premise was like, you forget something to remember something else. I'm like, you're, again, making it out to be that the person with the allergy is dumb.
Dumb. Weak.
Right. And it's like, it was just like so not, it didn't hit anything. Like there was no, it struck out. And yeah, I wish that it was included more, but just in passing almost. And if it is a big storyline, that they are going to take it seriously and show like appropriate reaction and administering of medication quickly, and kind of how all that works, like the process of it all.
I don't know what movie this is either. You can tell that I avoid it as soon as I hear about it. But why do people always say like, oh, can I stab you in your sternum with your EpiPen? What is that from?
I don't know, but...
Do you get that too?
No, thankfully. But I have heard it. Like, I've seen people talk about that, like on other social media, or allergy people on social media. And I saw someone's like asked a bunch of their friends or something, like, hey, where do I use this? Like, where would I use this? If I was having a reaction, where would I use this? And like, only half of them knew it was the thigh. Other people were like, the neck, the sternum, like they had the arm, like people had no idea.
Yeah.
And so again, that is not good, because if they've shown it being someone being stabbed with an EpiPen in another location, like that's incorrect. Like that's not
also,
good.
Like the word stab, like I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to stab me with anything.
No.
Like you're going to administer epinephrine.
Right. Inject. I mean, even that's better.
Yeah.
Than stabbing. But
I hate that. I hate being the butt of the joke. I hate being seen as othered. And I think that's like why we're just like special, but not in like the special way. Like in the like all of the negative ways, like, oh, you are separate from everyone else. That's why when there is somebody in the media who has an allergy, and it's just like you were saying, like really woven in to all of the parts that make them them, I latch on with all that I am, like, because it makes me feel like, oh, you're not this like person with this invisible thing. Yeah. Like you're a hot girl, just like she's a hot girl with her EpiPen. Yeah. Example, I'm having a hard time with names today. The girl, she just had a baby. The baby's name is Eloise. Oh. She had a huge wedding last year.
Is this like a real celebrity or a social media?
Lionel Richie's daughter.
Oh.
Not Nicole. Sophia Richie.
Okay.
She had like some ad for a bag, I think, last year, like a handbag, like some designer. And it was like, what's in your bag? And it was like a little bag, but it was like this new designer. It had like got a new size of it. Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I have like my hand sanitizer, my keys, like so many lip glosses, and my EpiPen. I have a nut allergy. And like, this is a gift for my friend. I'm going to her party later. Like, it was just like going in. It was just in the thing. And so many people sent it to me, and I was like, please hold. She can be a girl about town. She can be on all of her stunning designer things. Yeah. Like she can be a mom. She can have a beautiful wedding in Italy. Like she can be this glamorous, hot person. And like, you don't have to be this like medical girl who's weird. Right. It's like, no, you can be like them. Or like, Kelly Clarkson has a peanut allergy, I believe. Meghan Trainor. Yeah, Ariana Grande has I think tomato and like banana, or like has a few like something kind of more obscure. Yeah. I don't know. All of those people I really latch on. Yeah. Like, I don't do well with, and we've talked about this before, like creators, God bless them, but just like who make it more of a big deal than it needs to be. Which it's all, I mean, of course it's a big deal. You're not saying it's not a big deal, but it doesn't need to be like romanticized almost, like but it's giving Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mom, like wanting the attention. And like I sometimes battle with myself with that, where I'm like, this is going on, but like I don't necessarily want to record it and post it because I know it's going to get a lot of attention, but I don't want to get attention for that.
Right.
But I'm like, but on the other hand,
it can be helpful to people.
Somebody is going to DM me telling me, oh my gosh, thank you for posting that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like always in a tug of war of like,
I feel that too.
I'm tired. This is happening. I'm too tired to record it, but I know it could be helpful, but at least, I won't like put in the effort today because at least I can stave off the like, sometimes it makes me feel icky.
I think it, like, speaking of icky, like, I think, and probably everyone's level is different, but I think it's kind of clear who's doing it to be helpful and to share so that other people feel less alone or feel, it's some information that can help them. And the people who are kind of doing it for the clicks or for the attention of it all, like, I don't know. I feel like that it's pretty clear to me. So
I think it's clear too. I just think, as with everything, I'm like a lot harder on myself.
Of course.
And so it feels cloudy sometimes. Like, I don't want people to like, I am known, like at South by Southwest, I'll get stopped at events and be like, oh my gosh, you're the nut girl. And I'm like,
you're like, but like, no.
I'm like, I don't want to be the nut girl.
Yeah.
Like, I have a nut allergy, but like, I'm so much more than that. And they don't totally mean it in a bad way, but like, that's how they associate me with the content that I'm creating, or that's what they know me from. Is like on their screen at an allergist's appointment.
Yeah.
And it gets cloudy. It gets weird. So like, it's in one breath, I'm like, the media makes us the weak ones and the cloudy one, like blah, 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 blah. The cloudy ones? I didn't know. The media makes us like the weak ones, the butt of the joke ones.
Yeah.
And then also internally, as somebody who's creating a lot of media in the allergy space, I'm like, but are you doing it to be helpful? Or like, do you really need to post this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like where I've landed on it, and obviously what I gravitate towards, is when it's woven in. Like, I love to see it when it's a part of somebody's life, not a whole allergy page. I don't want your allergy branding. Says the girl with an allergy podcast.
Yeah, I know. Well, that, and like I was going to say, like my page is very focused on allergies because, and I don't post everything about my individual life, but I started it for the pure base of like wanting to help people like not have to do the work to travel and go places. Like that's how it started for me. And so I think we're different though, like in that way, in that I started an allergy page. You were posting as Danielle Price and you happen to have an allergy and you post about that. And yes, that's what maybe like blew up on your TikTok, but like, it's not all about that. For me, it is all about that because it's like, I'm not sharing the clothes I buy. I mean, like, sometimes I am, but it's like the shorts that have the pocket that can fit the ABQ. You know what I mean? Like, it's like always there's a tie-in.
No, I think that that's so needed though, because like, again, I'm hard on myself, but when I think about your page, I'm like, if you hadn't been creating that content, like somebody sent me that page because they were like, look, she has plenty of places that she has found to eat out in Austin. Because they were tired of hearing me be like, I eat out in LA, but I don't eat out in Austin.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's all very gray.
It is.
Just like allergy life in general.
And again, though, like everybody has different thresholds for things. So you say you just try to avoid it. One thing I was thinking of is like, for my kids, I feel like that's a little bit harder as a mom. Like I can't necessarily, like there's no database where I can like go before we watch a movie and be like, does this have allergies in it? Like that, it'd be great. I should invent that, but like it doesn't exist. So like for me,
it's like spoken except for media, not restaurants.
So for me, I'm always like sitting next to them watching, or sometimes not. Like sometimes I gotta cook dinner while they're watching a show, and like I'll overhear something about an allergy that happened when we first watched Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs. It's like a, kids movie, and they actually do a decent job. I would say like I didn't feel triggered or like they did anything super wrong. I mean, it wasn't perfectly accurate in terms of like when they gave the epi or like, I don't know. So there was something about like he forgot it at home. Like there weren't like, it wasn't perfect, but they didn't make it a joke. Like he was just he was the star. Like he was the main kid, but I didn't expect it. And I thought to myself after like, okay, how do I now handle this? Right? Because maybe it passed over his head. Like maybe it was no big deal, but also maybe it really affected him. Like it affects you, although you're an adult, he's a kid, like it's different, but you just don't know even what's in your own child's head. And I struggled with like, how much do I sit down later and talk to him about this? Cause we have books and stuff, right? Like I probably have like 5 or 6 food allergy related like kids books that we read, and he actually likes it. There's one by Holl. I'll tag her in the show notes, but we love it. It's a little, I would say it's slightly for older, maybe like 4 and up. Like the kids she wrote about were a little like her kids, but it's more informational almost, but not boring. And the little girl has the same allergies as Graham. Oh. And so he really like, I started reading it not to be like, okay, listen and learn. You know, it was just like hey, let's read this book. This girl has food allergies too. And it is a book about food allergies, but we opened it and started reading. And like, he would actually say things like, oh, she's just like me. Oh, those are the foods I can have. And those are the foods I can't have, you know, like he felt represented.
Yeah.
And he liked it. Like I could tell it was like, not any like sort of shame or fear. Like he was kind of like proud. He was excited, you know?
I love that.
And so, you know, I like for him to see allergies so that he doesn't feel like he's on an island. Like I remember you saying multiple times that you felt like you're the only one in the class or the only person going through this. And it's like, I don't want him to feel that way. I want him to know that like lots of people have allergies. So I don't mind that it's the main character in a movie has the allergy, or it's not perfectly accurate in like how they do X, Y, or Z. But the fact that it's not a joke is really what's most important to me. There's a Peter Rabbit, and I've never watched it with Graham because I've heard so many awful things, but it has a terrible allergy scene in it, and it's a kid's movie. Oh my gosh. And I know a couple people who like took their kid to see the movie in the theater. Like this was years ago. Yeah. And you know, in that moment, it's like, you can't be like, close your eyes and make it this big deal. You don't want to like stomp out of the movie and make your kid cry. But at the same time, you're like, well, shit. Like I just gave them a piece of media that was awful. And probably like, even if it didn't like fully register, like it's not a good data point for them to save in their brain about allergies, you know, like this was not good. And so I've always just, it's my opinion as a parent that like, you're towing the line between, you don't want to make something a bigger deal. Like you don't want to like make it this big, huge thing that they're scared of, but then you also need to be like honest. Now it's time to tell you about a company we're really excited about. TeleRx ensures you always have access to an EpiPen. Effortlessly request a prescription online and order an EpiPen for next day delivery. The 100% online process takes minutes and is free of videos, photos, and lengthy forms. And it gets better, Danielle. There are no membership fees or insurance complications.
Okay, also rest assured that TeleRx ships temperature-sensitive medications in insulated packaging, which you kind of need if you live, I mean, for us in Texas.
Anywhere in the South.
Anywhere in the South and this time of year.
It's important to make sure that the medicine actually works effectively.
Yeah, from the jump. Explore the selection of over 100 medicines for the next day delivery and use the code EpiPod to take 20% off. TeleRx is on a mission to make access to essential medicines simple, convenient, and affordable. Visit telerx.club/EpiPod.
And so I remember after that movie, what I did is I was like, oh, how's the movie? Like, you know, start there. Like not anything about allergies first, and like talk about the movie a little bit and be like, oh, and I heard that like he has, like I heard him say something about like epis, like he has an allergy. And he was like, oh yeah. And I could tell like it didn't clock. And he was younger when he watched it, but like he was not focused on that at all. And again, this was a good depiction, but it was not something. And so I kind of dropped it because we talked, you know, I said something about it. He was like, oh yeah. And I felt like that was enough to be like, look, you're represented. This kid was fine. Like nothing really bad happened. He's not invested in it in this way. So like, I'm going to kind of leave that alone.
I love that.
That was what I did. Now, there was something recently oh gosh, what is it? Now I'm like blinking. There was something recently, I'll think about it if we start talking about something else, I'm sure, where it wasn't great or like something happened and it was like a little scary. And I remember him like asking me about it. Like he had a question about it. And I think that
scary, like allergies or just in general?
Yeah. Oh. Allergies. Like, and now I'm like, it's killing me that right now that I can't remember
while you
it.
think about it, like when you're talking about sitting in the movie theater and you can't like stomp out and make them cry, but you also can't like really cover their eyes. This conversation is pretty similar, so different in different stakes, but similar to like every family has different rules about like what's okay to watch on TV and what's not. And like growing up, like MTV was for the devil. Like
in your house.
Yes. Like we didn't watch MTV.
Yeah.
The families that did, we don't hang out with those families. Like, like when I was really little, like catch my mom never being okay with like HBO, just like on the background. Like that was a no. Or if it was like a show that wasn't for kids, she would like, we would watch it together. Like I was always watching Oprah with her, which handles like some pretty intense topics.
Oh, yeah.
So like Dr. Phil, like that was our routine after school, was like go watch Oprah.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Like I can imagine that it's similar for parents, like how you're handling, especially as they get older. Like,
like
are
sex scenes.
Exactly.
And,
like, are you okay with what if there's a sex scene or like a PG-13 sex scene where it's like, it's implied versus like full on like an R-rated movie,
right?
Which are getting more and more R-rated.
Yes, they are.
Oh my gosh. What's the one with Sydney Sweeney?
I don't know. I'm so bad at movie things.
Gosh. This whole episode, we've been bad at it.
I know.
Like, I don't. It's about media. What's the name?
Yeah.
No, it's the most recent Sydney Sweeney movie. It was the one in theaters, and now it's on Netflix. It's like set in Australia.
Okay.
It was like full frontal.
Jeez.
Of like a man.
Oh.
I screamed. I was just so surprised.
Right. You're like,
I was like,
wow. Yeah, they don't typically show that.
No, I had oh my God.
I mean, they'll show boobs all day, but yeah.
I was like, why? They should, if, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
if you're going to
guess.
make, I don't know.
Yeah.
I take it back. I don't know.
You're like, not interested.
I remember like screaming and thinking like, what if there was a kid in here? Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So yes, like I can imagine allergies and like the way that it's introduced can be hard for parents, but it's also just like all of the other things, like sex scenes or like maybe something that your family has not talked about yet.
Yeah.
Like something a little bit more dicey and sticky.
Totally. I think the main thing is just talking to them after and like letting them know that it's like not scary and taboo and weird. Like I think our parents' generation, not everyone, but a lot of them, like it was like they didn't want to talk about like the birds and the bees, or like they were like, we're just kind of more closed off. And I think this generation's a lot different, or at least I feel that way, that like I would rather my kid be able to feel like they can come to me and ask me a question and not feel like awkward and weird about it. Rather than like be like nervous. Like if I'm nervous, they're going to be nervous. You know what I mean? So instead I just like try to like open the book and like let them tell me anything and let them know that like I'm not afraid to talk about this.
And it's you're so right about like when he didn't clock it. Like I remember when Shrek came out, had no allergies to my knowledge, but like I remember our church's youth group like took everybody, and then apparently it has like the jokes for the parents versus the jokes that are there for the kids.
There's always jokes for the parents, and I love that.
Oh my gosh.
I love the little jokes that they would never get.
Yeah. And I remember like a lot of the parents being like, oh my gosh, like, were you comfortable with Shrek? And I remember at the time I was a lot older, like it was totally appropriate for me, but I was like, you guys, they didn't even understand that. Like,
not even close.
Don't make it a big deal, because then it will be a big deal.
Yeah.
So everybody calm down, and we're going to go see it again next week. Like, chill.
Yeah.
And that's so true for the allergy thing.
Yeah. I think too, like if you do see, I still can't remember what I was going to say, but if you do see like a depiction that is not correct, I think sitting down and being like, hey, how'd you feel? Like, how'd you feel about that? And then like also pointing out what was incorrect. You know, like, ooh, he forgot his epi at home. We never do that. And it doesn't have to be serious. It can just be like, can you believe he would leave his EpiPen at home? Like, we would never. And if we do, we turn right around, right?
Sarah, you are the best mom.
You're so nice.
I'm like engaged. I'm like, no, we never do.
Yeah. But it's like keeping it like light, keeping it, not like, I mean, it is scary and they do have to take it seriously, but also it like, we can just make it like a normal thing and like correct things that we see, like they see that might not be what our family does or be the appropriate thing to do for allergies. And then once he's older, I think that changes, right? Like if somebody's listening and they have a teenager, like I think I would be a lot more direct. Like I think I would be like, wow, that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit that they depicted allergies like that. Like that's scary. It made me feel weird. Like I can only imagine you being the one with the allergy. Like how did you feel about that? And like they might not want to talk about it and that's fine. But I think again, going over like that sucks. And if you ever want to talk about it, let me know. And also like, remember, we can't do that. We can't not be checking the label, bro. You know, like, I think it's like how you level up. And I think we said we were going to have a conversation, a whole episode about like the varying levels of like, as my kids have even gotten older, from like babyhood to toddlerhood to like now school age, like how the conversation looks different. But yeah, we've got a long way to go in terms of allergies in the media. And I want to include a list. Actually, speaking of lists, I put something on my social media. Let me see if anybody has responded about like bad things. And I'll just run through them quickly.
I love it.
And then we need to get to question and answer. What do you think?
We do. I love that.
Okay, I found it.
Okay.
All right. This person says, acronym, which I don't watch the show, but Real Housewives of New Jersey. Apparently there's something that goes on with the husband who has a reaction, but I would assume that that's like in real life. So maybe that's just a good warning for like you or somebody like an adult who's watching that. Like if you don't like seeing it, maybe skip on over that. What is it?
Really? Okay. I used to be addicted to Bravo.
Really?
Like, all through high school, my mom and I were obsessed with the Housewives.
Yeah.
And then I watched a little in college, but like I would just so much rather be colleging. So it was like sometimes on in the sorority house, but like if it wasn't The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, then au revoir. But I've heard that the Real Housewives of New Jersey this season is wild. And I'm like, should I dip my toe back in? But now maybe not.
See? That's why I'm reading these. Yeah. And we can post more of them in the thing. I'm just going to read a few. Knives Out, the second one.
There is an allergic reaction. He dies from it.
See? That from food?
Yeah.
Okay, see, I watched the first one, I think, but not the second.
I really enjoyed both, but not the second one as much. And I remember having that thought. Yeah. Of being like, But yeah, no, he like, he's allergic to maybe pineapple. He's allergic to something. And they switch drinks and he drinks it and that's how they kill him.
Yikes.
Yeah. But he's like the villain. Like you want him dead.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe not. I don't remember.
I guess it would, for me, I don't think it would, I mean, of course I wouldn't let my kid watch something like that. It's not a kid show anyway, but like, I don't love that as like a method of killing someone. I
also don't love that as a method of killing someone.
But if it wasn't like shown as a joke, I kind of hate it less. You know, like how you said it's like a villain, they trying to kill them. Like it is like a deadly thing to have an allergy. So like it is kind of accurate.
Silver lining of the bad is maybe somebody would take it more seriously because somebody died from it.
True. Like, there's all the different ways to think about it. But that's just good to know. If that like is a triggering thing for you, maybe skip on over that one. Puss in Boots. That's a kid's one.
It has an allergy.
And I think we've seen it, but why can't I remember? I was probably like stirring the pasta pot. So I don't know. I'm going to have to go look at that one. Hitch. Someone wrote, so there. Peter Rabbit, which we talked about, and the Uber Eats commercial. They said, thankfully, it did not make it to prime time. I'm like, yep.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Spoiler, in the Oscar-nominated movie Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Puss in Boots dies from an anaphylactic reaction to shellfish, which could be frightening for children with life-threatening food allergies.
Hell yeah. Like, and again, I hesitate because I'm like, okay, well, it's real. That is real. Like, they're not necessarily like wrongly portraying it, but like also, do we want our kids to be afraid?
Oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah. So,
wait, the main character dies?
It's the second, you said the second or third one?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it dies and like comes back, and because I think there's multiple, but it's just tricky being an allergy parent in all the ways, but definitely this way too.
Okay, I'm gonna how many desks did that have to get passed?
That's like, I feel like with all these things that like go wrong like this, I'm like, how many people have to approve that?
Puss in Boots dies?
I guess. I don't know.
I will not be watching that movie, but report back.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to turn it on either. Okay, I'm going to keep compiling that list, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect.
For anyone. And then maybe we need to make a running list and start our database.
Boycott these movies, just kidding.
Yes, or not even, just like, no.
Just be aware.
Just be aware.
As someone who's as someone who is easily triggered, I watched Knives Out and obviously was like, I like the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Mickey Mouse in the room with us?
Are you ready for questions?
I'm ready for questions.
These question and answers are brought to you by InchBug, a waterproof personalized name label company for kids. You already know how much we love their labels for keeping water bottles and lunch containers clearly labeled for school, but
InchBug is currently giving our listeners 30% off of their allergy bag tags on Amazon. Find the link in our show notes and get personalizing. How do both of you find your best research? The internet is scary, and sometimes so are other people's opinions. Do you only look at peer-reviewed articles? I do not feel like there are enough to go from when I'm making decisions. I often just have to go with my gut, knowing that if I'm wrong, I'm to blame, and it has landed us in the hospital. And then that leads to even more guilt.
So I totally get you. I think what I do is not necessarily only look at peer-reviewed like research and studies and articles in that way, because oftentimes like that's confusing for the lay person. Like there's language and stuff in that I'm like, what does that really say? Or like the abstract and then the conclusion. Like I'm always like, I'm not scientific enough for this.
Like I didn't go to grad school for reading this.
So what I do instead is I go to some like not a forum, organization, nonprofit, like a group that I trust that kind of boils that information down into like a more readable article. And then I do trust those. And that's where I get most of my like real information. So like FAIR, Allergy and Asthma Network, there's, a lot of them that I'm not thinking of the names of right now, but I think that's what I would recommend is like pull information from those sites that have, like you're trusting them to accurately pull from those research articles and peer-reviewed journals to come up with the articles for their website. So I would do that. And then in terms of like following more normal average people, we've talked about this before, like don't go ham and follow 14 million pages. Like maybe linger and look around a little and then find some people that you really like trust, don't feel like sensationalize things, just kind of are honest and raw, and then follow like one or two.
Or honestly, like follow the doctors, allergy doctors or allergy clinics that actually are putting in a lot of time and effort into creating content.
Yep.
That is far superior than somebody who, depending on their mood or what's happened to them most recently, can be a little fear-mongery.
Totally. And or pick up the phone or email your actual allergist too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. And even that though, I will say like I follow quite a few allergists and they all have not necessarily differing opinions, although they do. Like everything from an antihistamine that they're recommending, like everything is different.
So true.
So again, I think you have to kind of be selective even in following those people. There's one particular person who I follow, who I had to unfollow, who's an allergist because it felt very mocking. Like everything was like a skit that they were kind of like, I don't know. It was like joking about like, how could someone not know this? Oh, here's the real information. And I'm like, why are we making fun of people who don't know that? Like they're coming to you because they don't know it.
Yeah,
like,
they're not a doctor.
Right. Like how about we can be creative and funny and like share information in a way that's like not boring, but like, let's not be, I don't know. It other people probably love it. It was not for me. So like, I was like, unfollow, So I think,
I'm almost 100% allergist
only.
Yeah. Like I thank you. I could not I can Google and like some organizations I know I'm going to trust more than others. But at the end of the day, especially being in OIT and having such a direct line to my doctor, like how he answers questions is almost always starts with like no comma, like nothing in research would show that. So I would say it's extremely unlikely, or whatever my question is. He's always mentioning research, studies, things.
Sorry about that.
Things like that. And so sometimes I'll even phrase my questions. Like, is there any research or is there any literature around this?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, no, like would be very rare. Or like, yes, like about 2%.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Like whatever it is. So I find that really helpful because like we've talked about before, and like you just said now, like every allergist is going to say something different. It really is the wild, wild west. So when you find the person that you're like, okay, for better or worse, like this is the person this is my North Star. Then I'm just like, you're the doctor. You're the one who does all of the reading and the researching. So just asking them directly.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or you, honestly.
Oh,
no, it's so true. I called you yesterday asking about something like, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I can give you my thoughts, you know, it's like, that's the thing with my page too. I'm like, I'm always I will never claim to be an expert on anything, but like, this is what we do. And after I've looked at like X, Y, and Z, this is what I think, you know, that sort of thing.
No, whenever I'm phrasing questions to you directly, I'm like, I need an allergy mom.
Yeah. Yep. And
I need somebody to think logically for me. Yeah. Okay. Another question is, how do you all trust food? I know that every label, every time, I know the saying every label, every time, but the label can sometimes be totally free. And then the website says manufactured with stuff that my child still has to stay away from. We've had a reaction from a Tums because I didn't know that they were manufactured, that they manufacture Tums smoothies, which contains milk. It's really hard to trust new brands, so I tend to just stick with the allergy brands, like the made good brands of the world. I would just love some insight.
Yeah.
Same.
I get this question a lot, and honestly, it's changed for us. So I think we've maybe briefly spoken about labels before, and again, should be an entire podcast episode, but I used to pretty much in the beginning of our food allergy journey, like call or research on every single product that we ever had. Because I just felt like, well, how do you know? Like this person, like they're like, well, we can read the label, but then they're not required to tell you on the label. Like, and that's the fact, right? Like the only thing they have to do is have it listed as an ingredient. Now, if it's an obscure name, they then have to put like in parentheses or in a contain statement, milk or whatever. Like, so, you know, milk can have 400 different names. So if it's like not a common name, then they have to somehow list it as milk. But if it's just like a contain statement is not required. Made in a manufacturing facility with is not required. A may contain is not required. So like they just have to list what ingredients are in the product, and that is all.
Which is so cuckoo banana.
It is. And it's not enough for people to like safely take care of their families or their loved ones or prepare for having another family over who may have food allergies, and just like the average person who is a human and can make mistakes. Like I just had a label in my house where I posted it and I was like, oh, only contains almonds. Like if that's your only allergen, like, or like if you can have almonds, you're good, you know? And I only had it up for a few minutes and people were like, but wait a second, it says pecorino cheese and sheep milk like as an ingredient. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't only, it said contains almonds. It didn't say contains almonds and milk because I learned this again a couple of years ago, and again, it didn't stick, but it's for the labeling, like the rules in the US are for the top 9. Other mammal milks aren't included. It's cow's milk. So pecorino cheese is sheep's cheese. And sheep milk. So like that's like, again, that's just a minefield of confusion.
I'm rolling my eyes if you're watching this on a platform that doesn't have video, or if you're listening, big eye roll. It is so, how are we supposed to operate like this?
I know. And so I used to call all of the time, and it got to a point where it was like debilitating. Like was more scared, I think, than I needed to be. I realized too that if it says may contain, it might like have it in it, but it might not. But if it doesn't have any label, it might have it in it or it might not. Like in terms of like trace particles, you know, like obviously they can't put it in it and not label it as an ingredient. But if it's made in a manufacturer and it has these trace amounts of whatever, and you're super sensitive, they're not legally doing anything wrong. It's just all bogus. But what I came to terms with was the majority. I think there's a study that shows that like there's all these thresholds for like 95% or more of people react after X amount. And for peanuts, it's like a half of a peanut. For milk, it's like 2 tablespoons or like, I don't know.
Half of a peanut?
Yeah.
I would definitely react with a lot less than that.
Right.
Yeah.
But most people don't. Like apparently there is, it might be less. I don't know. But there's thresholds out there. It's like, a quarter teaspoon of milk. But like if you have that much, most people are fine. And so these trace amounts, you know, the government or whoever has made like this percentage of like, if it's under this, you don't have to list it as an ingredient, you know? And so, or if it's, just these trace amounts from the line that it was created on. I mean, it's too hard. It's too much. We need to be more transparent. But what I learned is like, it's all confusing. There's no laws. So like me calling every time, like while it might offer a little bit more clarity, like it was sucking the soul out of me. And I realized that most times my son's not going to, like, if it doesn't say, we avoided may contain, we avoided shared lines, because that to me was like, okay, we're not going to take that risk in the beginning before treatment and all of that. But if it doesn't have it as a listed ingredient or a may contain, I started to decide like, I'm going to be okay with that. Like we're going to trust that label because it's more than likely that he will not have a response to this if it's not an ingredient. Now, there are a few things, and this is what I always tell people on my Instagram. There are a few things that I will call on still. And it's things that are, if it was made in a, like it's store made, like in the back bakery or like something like that. Like I'll always ask about that. For us with milk, ice cream, that's like a vegan ice cream of like Ben & Jerry's vegan ice cream. Like they make ice cream with milk, right? Like that's their ice cream company. Yeah. So like I need to at least know like, what are you doing to mitigate cross contact and things in your facility? Or like, so we didn't have all nuts as allergies. We were peanuts and a few of the tree nuts, but almonds, for example, have always been okay for us. So like, but almonds are often cross contacted with other nuts. Yeah. So for us, anything that I would give my son allergens, but like anything that had allergens, I would call on to make sure that it didn't share a line with peanuts. So like high risk things, those are kind of what I viewed as high risk. So like anything that has like a close relationship with the main allergen that he has that is commonly made by that particular brand. Bigger brands I tend to trust a little bit more. So like Oreos, for example, like Nabisco. If Nabisco was making mistakes left and right, we'd find out about it. Millions and millions of people eat Oreos every day that have milk allergies or whatever else, and they're fine. Because again, like these giant companies, they have to have the most rigorous of standards and protocols, or else they're in big trouble, you know? So I whether that's like 100% accurate, that is how I evaluate it. That was a very long answer.
I love it. I already have questions.
Okay.
One, I can't believe you called every single manufacturer. That's cuckoo.
It is.
I can imagine. That's like a full-time job.
Yeah, it was awful.
I didn't know
my soul.
that like you were calling, if something had almonds, you would call about peanut.
And I still do that.
Really?
I mean, not anymore now that we're at the point we are with peanuts. So it's like a new,
so cool.
But I would say like up until 6 months or so ago. Yeah.
Okay. So, personally, as the 90s allergy kid, I just ate whatever was in front of me, but probably not. Like I was so picky. I was just eating the brands that I liked.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, my mom would never give me like a PB cracker, but like those cheese Ritz crackers, I ate those. Those may contain peanut on it, at least, and now they do. I don't know about before.
Right.
So like, I know that my whole growing up, I would do May Contains. Milky Way was my favorite candy bar in middle school. I would eat so many Milky Ways, and that has a May Contain peanut.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on a camping trip. You asked me if I went camping earlier before we were recording, and I was like, no. But growing up in the school that I did, we had an outdoor ed trip every year. And in first grade, it was like a day hike. Second grade, like a really long day hike. Third grade was the first overnight. And then by 8th grade, it's a 2-week long trip.
Oh my gosh.
And one of the weeks is backpacking. And you are like in the remotest part of remote Colorado. Oh. The year that 2001, the 9/11 attacks happened, they came out of the woods and nobody knew what had happened. Like, and you have adult chaperones, obviously, with the 8th graders. And they were like, the what? What do you mean, what? What happened? So you're like out there with like no medical help, no anything. And I remember eating a Milky Way out on that trail. And I remember the camp leader being like, okay, but it says may contain peanuts. And I was like, everything says may contain peanuts. This is before anything bad ever happened to me. And I was like, whatever. I also remember on that trip, like you bus all night long overnight to Colorado. And then like one of the pit stops was at this like random pizza parlor that was like had a lot of lore, and all the 8th graders would come back and talk about the amazing pizza. It was just because they were hungry. But I remember stopping, and the pizza sauce was not just like normal pizza sauce. It had like a lot of like herbs and seeds in it. And I remember the whole table, I was starving too. The whole table was eating, and I remember asking the chef, asking the chaperone, they didn't know. Then I had to ask the manager, they didn't know. Then I had to talk to the chef, and he didn't really know. And finally we figured out it was fennel seed. And I remember asking to call my mom.
Like, can I have fennel seed?
Yes. Yeah. And I remember them being like, Danielle, we've like literally only been on the trip for 10 hours. Like, this is going to be a 2-week trip. Like, do you really need to call your mom? And I was like, yeah, I really need to call my mom. Yeah. And I remember having the like pizza sauce, like a little bit of it in my hand and like squishing it and being like, Mom, it doesn't squish like a nut would. Like, it's not that hard. Seems more like a plant, but it looks like a seed. And she's like, okay, well, maybe just like try a little bit of it. And I was like, it tastes like licorice. And she was like, okay, I'll just wait a while and see what happens. And like, that's what I learned what the herb was, or like a fennel seed was.
Yeah.
But like, so I remember growing up eating may contain, like I was safe. And then everything changed, and now I no longer do may contains. I haven't had a Milky Way since probably high school. Yeah. Or like college.
But you could.
Now I have one in my pantry.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't eaten it yet though.
Okay, I'll be with you.
Okay, well maybe I do it in the next EpiPod.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all to say, like, I come from the opposite side of the spectrum, where before I used to do it all. Now I don't do any of it. But I have never once called a company.
Yeah.
My mom will sometimes email, like if she knows I'm coming home and it's like a brand I'm not familiar with, she'll email it. And I don't know, something about that, like the phone number on the back of the package. Yeah. I never think they're actually going to respond. Oh, yeah. Or like that there's an actual human.
Or you can like Google it. I mean, a lot of companies have gotten really good to where you don't have to call. I say call. A lot of times you don't actually have to call because they have their information online. So like, you go to the website and they'll be like, this is unshared lines, but we do vigorous testing and we test each line before we do this particular product. Like, people are like getting more transparent. Yeah. And so that's really helpful. And I always, if you're going out of your way to say like, we do rigorous cleaning and testing, I'm like, okay. I usually trust it every time.
Yeah. Okay. So me being like, I don't do may contain, that's such a lie. I do may contain, but it doesn't say may contain. I just know it may contain.
Oh, okay.
Example, my favorite ice cream is Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The cookies. Like, what is it? Something cookies?
I don't know.
There's like 4 different types of cookies in this ice cream.
Nice.
And every time I chomp down on a cold chocolate chip, I think that's a nut.
Yeah.
And sometimes I spit it out and I'm like, nope, that's chocolate chip. Put it back in. But like, I know so many of the flavors have peanuts and tree nuts.
Yeah.
And so I know that this may contain, even though it doesn't say may contain, because labeling laws are crazy.
Yeah.
And I do it anyways. And I've always been fine. So I think it's just like, unfortunately, like everything else with allergies, it's the wild, wild west, and you just have to do what you're comfortable with and what your allergist says.
Yeah. And take baby steps to where like, okay, we're going to try this product. I feel maybe we could be okay. And if like your kid's okay, then like it could open the door a little bit more. You know what I mean?
There's totally been times where like they'll see me on TikTok. Like
eating something,
and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was allergy safe. And I'm like, it's not. It's not. Haagen-Dazs is not like an allergy safe brand.
Right. But you've been fine.
I've never had a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's helpful for people though, to know that. Mm-hmm. So, well, hopefully that answers that question.
I'm going to straight up go get some Ben & Jerry's right now.
I think
maybe some Oreos. Cause when you were talking about Oreos, I was like,
I think there's been at least 3 episodes now where you've ended saying you're going to go get a pint of ice cream.
Really?
Yeah. And I love it.
Or Abe's. That's my pipeline. I'll go to Whole Foods after this and I'll go get Abe's.
I really like that. Yeah.
Because they're mini muffins, which means they have no calories.
Oh yeah.
I eat the whole tray in one sitting though.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I were joking.
You have the best metabolism.
I really do.
You really do. Okay. Well, this is good to catch up. I hope everything gets sorted out with your move. By the time this airs, it will be great.
Or I will have moved to Turks and Caicos.
I'll Skype you in for EpiPod.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much to our sponsors. Please leave us reviews. We didn't say that in a couple of the episodes now, but like they make our life, like truly, they make our life.
Review us.
Yes, and we'll see you next week.
See you next Tuesday.